Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL Show, the weekly podcast from Beacon DeFi, your beacon in the world of decentralized finance. I'm your host, Professor Chris, and we've got a great show lined up with some new guests here on the table, on the table, on the panel. Unfortunately, Ken from Taoshi, Ken was supposed to be here, but unfortunately he has bad internet. And then unfortunately, we also had Rachel Onchain from Decent DAO and Decent Lab. She unfortunately had some last minute things pop up, so she won't be able to make it. But in their place, in addition, we have someone I met at ETHDenver. She interviewed me for some of her content, and she's amazing. She's got great aura, great energy. Welcome to Karima. Karima, how are you today?
I'm awesome. The sun is shining. The weather is so much better here in Maryland. I'm loving it. It's so nice.
It's got to be warm out there, I got to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in the 60s, but that's like a big improvement.
That's a huge improvement. It's not snowing. Mm-hmm. Everything's got to be melting out there. I love that. I was actually born in Southern Virginia, so I'm not that far from you. And I lived in right outside of Hagerstown, Maryland for a minute growing up. So love to hear people from Maryland. Thanks for being here with us today. We'll talk a little bit more in just a second. Also got Austin from Taoshi. And Taoshi, subnet number 8, BitTensor. Austin, where are you looking? You said you're in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, originally from the Midwest. Was, speaking of weather, was sick of the minus 50 wind chills for 4 months. And I know Colorado's not much of an improvement, but we got 50 degrees, and I believe they say in Fort Collins, Colorado, it's sunny around 315 days a year. So I'll take it. Weather's great here today too. That can change pretty quick, but yeah, Austin from Taoshi, kind of taking place for Kenneth, who, as you said, is having some bad Wi-Fi. And I've been a big fan of the show. Speaking of the man,
he's here.
The legend.
Lord, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Testing, I can hear you, my code brother from another mother. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Sorry about my internet. It might go out again. Last week it was power. This week it's internet. It's always something.
But that's all right, because you're about to be heading on the trip of a lifetime, my man.
Oof. Yes, I am. Next week is Africa.
Beautiful, beautiful.
We'll see how that goes.
I'm super jealous, man. That's on the list for sure. So, now only Karima was with me at ETHDenver. So, like I did last week with Robert, because Robert actually came to ETHDenver. We hung out quite a bit. We spent some time together. It was a great time. So Karima, tell me, from your ETHDenver experience, what was probably the biggest things that you learned, or at least the most impactful things that you learned while you were in Denver?
That's a really great question, because the way that I hopped from event to event to event, I don't think I learned anything. Okay, no, from people. Okay, I learned from the experience, but like watching and absorbing a panel, I think I was just so many places at once that I didn't learn anything new as far as like new tech or this thing is being built, but I did learn just more about the events ecosystem and crypto, kind of how it works, how, like, before this, I think Bitcoin Nashville is something I did. And before that, I only did like regional and local type of events, never anything like huge, like ETHDenver. So going into it, I kind of learned like what I want my strategy to be next year. Like that is more so what I learned. And I think for me, the best experience was the fact that there was a lot more content geared towards women, and a lot like the swag I got that I still like use to this day was like swag from brands that focused on stuff for women versus like just random t-shirts. I'm like, where are the women's sizes? I don't want a large. I don't want this crew neck. Ew. Like, where am I really going to wear that? Versus like Bare Baddies, you go to their event and they're like, you pick your own design and they like press it on the shirt for you. It was really cute. And so I enjoyed like how people put a lot of energy into personalizing the experiences with their brands. And I think we saw some of that at some of the booths and the activations of getting attention, and which ones kind of got the most attention, which was like Unichain, when they were like personalizing the bandanas, which are really nice. Story had some interesting stuff. They had an AI agent jacket that looked like FBI agent. And I was like, in theory, that's cool, but I would never on purpose wear something that looked like I was a cop. Like I just wouldn't. But in theory, though, like honestly, like having people walk around with that on during the conference would have been like a really good play for them, right? Versus just like a swag giveaway. So I think I learned just a lot about how these things work, how the hierarchy of like, even though crypto is like very technical, as far as the way people work and connections work, it's really about meeting people in person and making an impact in person, making that connection in person and starting those relationships in person. Like those matter so much more than like, or almost just as much as like building a personal brand online. And so that's something that was like affirmed for me, which made me decide, okay, I'm going to do another event, which is probably Berlin Blockchain Week, because that seems like
Really?
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I wanted to do Token 2049.
Yeah.
But if my company isn't sending me out there, I'm not. Just Dubai is just something that I don't even want to afford on my own. It's just a whole trip in itself that I'm like, okay, I need a whole real strategy to be sent out there versus me going to explore and learn. It's not like a learn thing I want to do financially. And so I thought about the next big thing. And a lot of marketers are talking about Berlin Blockchain Week because ETHCC is in Cairns, which is everybody's saying is very expensive and it's hard to get to and blah 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 blah. And I'm also not trying to jump over a horse and a skip drop to get to the next place. If I could just fly and be there, that would be ideal. So I think that's the overall strategy was just super important. I think the side events, there were so many. I wish I was more strategic about them. I mean, one day I went to 7 places in one day. It was crazy.
Oh yeah.
And I had fun, but whoo, like getting up the energy for that.
Yeah, I get good shoes.
Good shoes. And then like even like the party events, I went to one event and I drank there and I was like, I wish I didn't. The next day I got an IV and it literally my body, they had so upstairs, I think the best part of ETHDenver was the Zen Lounge, which they didn't talk about. And the only reason why I knew about it was because twice when I was at the beanbags in the regular area, someone had mentioned it to me. Like, oh, I took a nap up there, or oh, you should go up there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it. And honestly, as a brand activation, it would have been very smart to be up there because they had like different just things where you could really have someone's attention. Like they had a petting puppies section where you could like they brought puppies.
Yeah.
So you could just puppies. And so in the line, as you're petting the puppies, there's this guy pitching Mezzo, which is like a loan-backed platform for DeFi loans on Bitcoin. I remembered his whole pitch. Like I remember the entire thing. I also have taken loans out with my crypto before. So it was just like, oh, like this was a very smart way to like not break the bank, but also make an impact. And they had oxygen bar, they had a sound bath, they had aromatherapy, they had massages. And none of those are really sponsored by any companies except for the puppies. And so I think ETHDenver kind of provided them, but I think that's an opportunity. I think of myself as a sponsor, anything consumer focused, wellness focused, women focused should be upstairs in the Zen room because then you really capture attention because you care. Like it's a real experience versus like, you know, you're just getting a booth and having to compete with the different build outs and activations because you really have to compete. You got to get creative. You have to really show out unless like you got to show out. So that's one thing I just learned from a marketing perspective of how to present. Lastly, from a marketing perspective was that the quest for swag was the wackest thing ever. I hated it so much. Like I don't want to do that. Now, I did like 2 that actually weren't that bad. And I was like, okay, I respect it. Like you got my email, but like one of them, Rarible, you had to like get on their chain, buy $2 of the Rari token, mint an NFT for a chance to get a hat or chapstick. And then I got the chapstick. Me and this other guy got the chapstick. We were so blown. We were like, what are we doing this for? Like, we just put all this work in. You can get chapstick anywhere else just by walking by. But you wanted me to jump over this hop, skip, and a jump just for some chapstick. Now my experience with your brand is negative. Now I don't care. Now I don't want to go back to Rarible ever again. unless there's some kind of other reason for me pulling it, but you're not going to be able to pull me. You're going to have to get an influencer or something else. So that was a really good experience to learn from, because I understand wanting to bring people on chain, but there's a trade-off of time and attention that you're doing when you're doing all that. And sometimes it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it to make people hop, skip, jump, pop, lock, and drop it just for some swag.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Right? There has to be a balance for like getting people on chain, or really just any DeFi, Web3, whatever word we want to use for adoption in general, but not making it too, impactful. Like you said, like those events, they're in the best way can be very exhausting, and like it's with my, my past 3 years, I worked at a liquidity aggregator called Uphold, and we were at multiple events, and it was like a big thing, like 2 days in advance, having a real strategy on like how can you mitigate and stretch your time to be one, showcasing what you're building, but also like finding a way to actually take in this intellect and network properly. Because at times it just feels like you're grabbing telegrams, but you don't have the mind capacity to like follow up with these people, right?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely on board with you on like the need to balance everything and not take too much time from people, but be able to like really educate properly. Because I think that's the biggest thing with blockchain, crypto, Web3 in general, DeFi is education is key, right? Like I've always said, if my aunt isn't able to get on chain and like send something to me or take out a loan on Compound or Aave, we're just not there yet, right? UX is definitely a few years behind. So just wanted to kind of mimic your word on the need for balance there, just to not push adoption down, but make it like fun, fulfilling, and don't take too much time and effort from people.
Agreed. So what I will say, Karima, just to kind of help you out with your strategy there. So I wouldn't go to nothing against the Dubai event. I think the Singapore event is by far the more attended event, because they did this last year. But you will need a strategy, because it is all side events at Token 2049. No, Token 2049.
There's two Singapores. Yeah, there's Dubai and there. Oh, yeah. There's two of them. Okay, and the Singapore one is later on in the year, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's later in the year. You got a lot of time to kind of figure out your ideas. It's interesting because BTC in Nashville, definitely a consumer-facing event, right? There's a lot of people like trying to sell miners and stuff like that. ETHDenver is a dev conference. So while people can, and most of them do get in with some free tickets, the focus is undoubtedly more towards developers and people building. So the only issue that I had specifically with Denver is that a lot of the side events were in a lot of interesting places that were not the easiest to get to, right?
No, yes. Like the Uber was another budget item that
exactly.
You knew, but it was like, damn. And no matter where you stayed, honestly, you were going to be paying. The last day to leave the conference, it cost $50 to go 6 miles.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I was done after that. I was like, I'm going home. I'm over it. Like, I'm over it, because it's like, what? And I was going to
start a whole channel on just hacks on like crypto conference hacks, because I did the scooter, I did all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think for you, 2049 in Singapore, probably the better deal. You'll just find more interested people who are actually more consumer facing, because it's more of a consumer facing and regular non-DeFi event than ETHDenver absolutely will be. I am planning on going not to Dubai, but to Abu Dhabi for Solana Breakpoint in December. I think that'll be a great fit. It'll be a much better fit than having it wedged in after 2049 in Singapore like they did last year. But yeah, overall, I think honestly, if people followed what Permissionless does, and they did this at Salt Lake City, I was there in October, where I met Ken and Luke and Mike from Taoshi. They actually had a networking app. So you signed in for the networking app, and people it was almost like LinkedIn mixed with like, what's the dating app where you swipe left? Tinder. Sorry, I'm old. I almost said a different dating app. I'm like, that's not the right one. But it's it's like that. So you actually can swipe left or right to earn, not to earn, but to gain networking access to people. And I think that's a much better way to do it than, sitting around, because every year I fight the urge to do the Telegram thing. I love y'all on Telegram, but it's such a pain in the butt to sit there and to just click the button. Right now I have big fingers. I always click the wrong one in any case. But
you gotta add context. Like some people I was following up, I was like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like,
and if you didn't have Telegram Premium, you got rate limited, because there are too many people trying to access Telegram at the same time. It was crazy. I was just like, all right, this is funny.
And again, like with that, like let's say you go on the Telegram frenzy, like conferencing is a day job in itself. You forget, then you have to get back to reality because we have work to do. And like that follow-up period, I just have Karima from Swan and Chris from Beacon, like you don't really have a lot of context, and it's really just hard to be really efficient with any of that information you got. It seems like you can have follow-up calls, but everyone's in the same boat of like, okay, back to reality, right? Like we have work to do, and it's really difficult. So I wasn't
selfies like, hey,
right. Yeah, you got to put some context. You got to be memorable. You just can't put the name in there because that's happened far too many times. It's like, oh, I remember this person was cool, gave off good energy, was building something, but it just you can't retain it all, right? So and
we gotta have another call specifically on the strategy for this, because I'm gonna be at BTC in Vegas at the end of May. So
nice.
Hopefully I can see you all there, but we'll kind of move along a little bit. It turns out I guess Ken's not coming back because Ken's internet's gone. It went gone, girl. So I did have another quick open. I'm gonna ask the question real quick so I can get the windows ready here for our screen share. So real quick for anybody who's watching, if you like what you see, please do me a favor, like, follow, subscribe, especially if you're on our YouTube. I don't think I turned on. We might be on Stream TV as well. Stream STREAMM.TV, which is sending us to Farcaster. So hello to all of our friends out in Farcaster. We're also part of this is also going to be an audio podcast. So to all of our listeners out there, welcome aboard. Hopefully you're enjoying the value here. And so while I set up the windows, I just want to put out there right now, what's the hot song that's on your playlist currently that gets you up and ready for the day? I'll start right now. I'm all about Doja Cat and Lisa from Blackpink. So Born Again with Lisa featuring Rain and Doja Cat. That's my jam right now. That is what gets me up in the morning, and just like that, it's almost like a little retro kind of disco kind of beat to it, and really enjoying the remix on that. So Karima, while I set this up, what's the hot song on your playlist right now that's getting you going per day?
The hot song, I feel like I'm 58 because I don't know anything that's come out this month.
No, that's okay. What's the hot song on the playlist? Doesn't have to be anything new. Could be something you listen to all the time.
Recently I've been playing Sunshine by Lupe Fiasco.
Okay.
Because my friend shared it on one of her stories on Instagram, and it was like her son. And I have a son. I'm like, this is a beautiful song. So I've just been listening to it because I think it's such a sweet song to wake up to. And it's like a nice melody, and gets me and my mom feels. So that's my song for the week.
As a parent, I feel the same way. I love that. What about you, Austin?
Yeah, it really depends on the mood, right? It's like kind of I lay out my tasks for the next day, and if it's if I'm in the trading mood and I gotta lock in, I'll go down the hip hop rap genre, some new Kendrick, J. Cole, old Childish Gambino. Some of those are beautiful. But if it's more just like I'm trying to get into the zone on some more technical documentation work, we have a tunes chat in our Slack channel, and honestly, the team just keeps feeding like very random music. Honestly, couldn't tell you the names of them, but I'm definitely the music palette's starting to diversify with the Taoshi team, especially Kenneth. We had a thing going where we'd send a song back and forth each day just so we could expand our reach. But that I would say new J. Cole and Kendrick is if I'm in the let's get some stuff done mood.
Very nice. Ken just messaged me and said Toto Africa, because he's getting ready to go to Africa. So that's an old song from the 80s. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I'm jealous, man. I mean, I just went to Thailand, but I'm jealous. Africa's always been on the bucket list.
It'll always be on the bucket list for me as well. Let's go ahead and take a look real quick while we're also talking about We're going to talk about markets in just a minute, but just want to also say thank you to all of our Beacon founding members and our Beacon Mastermind members, as well as our Beacon Accelerator members for helping make this happen. Just wanted to talk about our free group real quick. If you like what you're hearing, you want to learn more about decentralized finance, learn more about what all of these people here on our show are talking about going to conferences, and that's something you want to do. Figure out the secret to doing so. Learn more about decentralized finance. Learn more about blockchain and on-chain investing with our free group, Total Value Locked. Join the hundreds and almost thousands of people. We launched this February 20th of 2024, so we're just past a year. We've had great growth. We do have a free call every Friday for our members called Beat the Banks, and you can check that out every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, as well as this call here. So join our free community. Check out our Start Here post so you can actually see the different paths that we have, see a word from myself and my co-founder Andrew. If you're brand new, check out our introduction to DeFi module. If you guys don't know, I'm also a university professor, so I built an entire university for our mastermind to get you from 0 to 1. If you're intermediate or if you're a high net worth investor, you want to get to with the best of the best, work with some of the shoulder to shoulder with the best investors on the planet, especially in DeFi, join our mastermind. With that said, let's take a look at the markets real quick. It's been a bit of a bloodbath, guys. Let's be honest. And the main reason why I wanted to have Karima here, along with who will have Rachel on again, but Austin as well, is to talk about the hype for great projects coming up to get the system running again. Ultimately, there's two ways to look at this. First off, don't sell. Please don't sell your Bitcoin. Why? Because there are people waiting to buy it at a steep discount. Like they're like, why would I buy it 108 when I could just buy it 79 or 82? And there are people doing it in droves. So if you're getting shaken out by this price action, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were looking at $19,000 Bitcoin, guys. I mean, this is your exactly. It's crazy. I mean, seeing ETH at 1,800 is not a great feeling, but
no, it's not.
It's not a great feeling, but we got some things happening. Let's go ahead and look at bubbles real quick. This is something we also do every week. Let me just reset that. And looking at what we're looking at on the day, as you can see, people are in a buying mood again. We'll talk about some of these bullish indicators in just a minute before we get to our big projects. But my goodness, Celestia up to 19% today. On the week, it's going to be fairly red, but overall today's a different day. Move is actually doing pretty well. Congrats to them. Their mainnet launch happened 2 days ago. So excited for it. Look at Story. IP 16% up. And y'all figure out your stuff with Pi Network, guys. I'm not messing with that. But congrats to anybody who can actually figure out how to cash out their Pi. Good luck with that.
I was gonna say I was lucky enough to, in my first few years of, I really got into crypto 2018, and I was, just trading spot altcoins at the time, and someone put me onto the Pi, and I started clicking it, once a day for about a year, and thankfully I was able to migrate like 900 Pi to mainnet successfully.
Oh, there you go.
There are a few US off ramps, not well-known exchanges, but I'm holding with the momentum for now. I'm not a buyer of Pi, but I really didn't think it would come of anything, and I have around 1,500 USD worth ready to sell. So, but I do know there's there's definitely a lot of problems people are having, but that's expected when you have millions of people, potentially who onboarded and don't know much about, seed phrases and, non-custodial wallets. So I would not want to be on their customer success team at the moment.
And that's the hard part, right? These are things that'll be all worked out in time. But overall, that's a question that people ask me a lot. Like, what should I buy? And I'm like, honestly, buy whatever you like. It's all about having high conviction. And that's what we teach a lot of our group to do is you got to have high conviction assets. And when I say high conviction, you're going to buy something, hold it for 3 to 5 years. So you want to make sure that you are, looking into the right projects. Of course, there's plenty of projects out there, but we like going after high volume, high TVL, high volume, high yield. That's why it's good to see Barra back up 4.9, Stacks up to 5.2, Mantle up 6%. That's very interesting. Good to hear after the post Bybit hack, although they weren't really affected. But let's go ahead and head into our news real quick. I wanted to go ahead and talk about that mainly because that's what this first portion of the call is about. So again, we have some bullish indicators. So we're looking to see, especially with the fact that CPI numbers just came in, they are below, so inflation is falling. So could that mean that there is some rate cuts coming? Possibly so. That would actually be very, very bullish for the economy overall. Bullish indicators, Avalanche went ahead and not Avalanche, VanEck. It's ETF filing season. Apparently, we have. Before I talk about that, I don't have it on the timeline, but Ukraine has agreed in principle to a 30-day ceasefire. So hopefully, global conflict will start to calm down. Canada is going to be walking back some of their tariffs against the U.S. So hopefully, this trade war starts to calm down a little bit. We can kind of get back to whatever normal needs to be for people to start getting off the gas pedal on fear and coming back into greed, because crypto needs greed. So, essentially that's the thing there. So VanEck registering for an ETF in Delaware definitely signals that they're going to be having a spot AVAX ETF. AVAX, a longtime player in this space, as an Altel one. Hopefully they're able to get the value of AVAX back up. Speaking of other ETFs, guys, that are coming out, Franklin Templeton, 1.5 trillion in assets under management, very large fintech group. They've filed for the Sol ETF along with VanEck and multiple others. But they've also come out with a new product called let's see. Well, this is the CEO Jenny Johnson talking about how BTC is a distraction for the greatest disruption that's happening in the financial services industry, which she's not wrong. They have their own little ETP, which is an enterprise trading portfolio product called Easy Peasy. Great name. And they're going to have they have Bitcoin and ETH. So it's kind of like an ETF where you just deposit money and you do get exposure to those assets. Them filing for XRP and Sol means that those two are likely going to be in that product as well. So everyday investors who, let's be honest, may not want to get into self-custody, but would rather have exposure this way, Franklin Templeton is going to have the access to do so. It's big news.
If you don't mind too, I just want to comment. I love the ETP route too. I think in crypto, if we're just looking at your crypto only investors and traders, I think we do have a downside as a community. Not anyone here specifically, but just in general, you always see the this asset versus this, right? Like you have maximalists. And I believe, hopefully with time and legitimacy and as liquidity pours into this industry, over the next years and decades, we can start to learn that there's a lot of innovative things going on. And it's not necessarily like a one needs to win. Like if you look at the S&P 500, like there's a lot, the Magnificent Seven, they all do different things. We need to start looking at crypto in the same, with the same glasses on. To know that one doesn't need to be better than the other, and really for this industry to succeed, you can't just have Bitcoin. It's what comes along with that, what new innovations and technologies and use cases are unlocked, and I'm just fully for like diversifying if you see fit and not needing to marry your one bag, right? So I do think the ETP route is a really good option for investors who want to expand and learn more and not just sit fully in Bitcoin, ETH, or one particular digital asset.
Yeah,
I'll get your take on this in just a second, Karima. But one thing besides that, the SEC is now looking at multiple ETFs for Solana, for XRP. I think there's even a Doge. Well, I guess there's a Doge one, a Doge Litecoin, and Grayscale also just put in an HBAR, one for Hedera. ETF as well. So we're going to see multiple of these coming into they're quote unquote being acknowledged. But what does that mean mainly is that if this does come to fruition, we're not going to see any of this movement till most likely second half of 2025. So as an investor yourself, do you prefer to see this stuff at the mainstream, or are you more focused on things that are happening down and on blockchains?
That is a really good question. I would say, as an investor, I want to see what's building, what people are building. who's fighting through, cutting through the noise, building innovation, building utility, like real useful stuff. Because like people will follow no matter what the big news says. Like someone will do well. You can still do well without all of that if you're building something useful, versus like the bigger news can just make or break anything. You know, Trump is over here crashing and burning everything around. So I'm not really bullish on big news, because at any moment it's like a rug pull to me of how big news works. And so I'm kind of bullish on builders and seeing what they continue to do throughout the time we've been here over and over again. And I'm going to continue to be bullish on builders. I think big news is cool for a quick pump, but it doesn't really last long. And really what happens is what's built is going to like stand the test of time or not. Right. And so that's kind of my perspective on it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. We'll go into some of the other news, some of the bullish indicators that I was mentioning earlier. And you can kind of take this at face value, right? Last Thursday, President Trump signed an EO and an executive order to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, along with a digital asset reserve. So 2 different reserves. They're going to hold store value akin to Fort Knox. What they're not telling you is that they're not actually feeding or buying new assets at the time of signing. They're actually putting in assets into all of these reserves based off of any criminal cases that were created where they procured the assets from seizure. So any of the Mt. Gox stuff is most likely going to the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Anything else that's like laundering, fraud, those will all go into the reserve here as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he also had a crypto summit on Friday, which I don't know if they were just trying to recreate the Last Supper with that one photograph. It was just a really weird photograph, but it was a huge nothing burger in terms of sentiment, because they announced nothing. It was just meeting and everybody talking. And ultimately, maybe as a hungry base, we have in some cases overhyped a lot of that. We did talk about last week, and this is with Senator Cynthia, found out it's not Loomis, it's Lummis, because apparently it rhymes with hummus. Reintroduced the Bitcoin Act, because yesterday she did have a meeting with multiple CEOs and influential people in the crypto space, and she has 6 other U.S. senators co-sponsoring this bill. The key provisions, and we talked about this last year when she talked about it at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville, is 1 million BTC purchased over 5 years, and there's a 20-year hodl on something like this. So overall, good to bring, as you mentioned, Kareem, a pump back in, more awareness. We're going to hopefully see more building around things like this. But if anything, all of this, I think, is more just the smoke show, just to make it okay for everyone to buy crypto, because there's such a microscope on people purchasing stocks, for example, such as Nancy Pelosi and multiple other Congress people or other people in the cabinet. It's no secret that the majority of people, even in Trump's cabinet, hold crypto. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald, they have a 5% stake in Tether. Of course they own crypto. President Trump has World Liberty Financial, already has millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto. Plus he has a huge war chest from his NFTs, as well as his meme coin. So maybe just normalizing the conversation, and if that was the case, that might be a job done in his case, because at least people know about it. Although I don't know if the sentiment or the optics have been all that great with the market being as volatile as it has. But any thoughts? Feel free to jump out with any.
Yeah, I got one thing. Just going off of it was the question that stemmed for Karima on, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Having nation states, countries, this very fast pace or adoption, or at least the narrative around it. I do want to backtrack and just like look at the mindset of a Bitcoin holder or a crypto holder 10 years ago, and how it was very, decentralization, take out government, it was very like for the people. Let's kind of disembody this need for banks and governments to control your currency. I mean, there's many things you can call Bitcoin, but that was kind of the narrative 10 years ago. And I just find it crazy now that crypto traders now depend on CPI numbers and, news headlines that are tied to governments to decide whether we're shorting or longing the market. So it's just crazy to see like how much we've evolved. And I think on a downtrend when it comes to like depending on, those macro narratives to determine where Bitcoin goes. But I do think, as an optimistic thinker, hopefully what this does is brings more stable legislation to the field to have builders not be scared to build. And you see either whether lawsuits are being dropped or we're seeing some legitimate, stablecoin legislation going here. You're seeing differentials of like what a digital asset is. I hope that in the next few years, at least what we get from this is multiple countries, not just the United States, putting some legitimate legislation and some laws into place. So builders can continue to innovate and not be, afraid to be penalized or, persecuted for building these distributed ledger technologies.
Yeah, and I think too, it highlights, especially on the Beacon side, the need for education, the need for content, like much like what you're doing, Karima, as well.
Yeah.
I saw you interviewing a lot of people at ETHDenver, and I think this is what people need to see, is creating an audience, having people understand what's happening around them, not just from a governmental level, but clearly from a builder and groundswell, grassroots level, what people are building out there. And the beauty of DeFi is that everything here has been built without spending $1 of taxpayer money.
Right.
I
love that the most.
Yeah, that's a nod to Eric Voorhees. I didn't make that up.
Yeah, no, agreed. Education's key here because my first 2 or 3 years in the industry, that wasn't just trading altcoins, was on a research desk, and then I kind of went to sales coverage for an OTC desk for more high net worth institutional investors. And our go-to was to educate and then execute, because there's a lot new tokens every day, new protocols every day, and there's a lot of innovation taking place. But with that, there's a lot of noise. So it's like how do you siphon the noise and people just kind of copy pasting code, and you can tell they're just looking for a financial gain, and who's actually building something that's going to be foundational to changing the ways of not just finance, but there's so many different industries how this technology will kind of implant its way, like supply chain being one of them, and just there's so many different things. So it's key to not only educate, but try to bring people on the right path of like what's actually taking place that's meaningful here, and what's just your quick money grabs. And you gotta decipher between the two.
You need to make this larger. But moving on to the next piece, I think it's safe to say also a bullish indicator that Operation Choke Point 2.0 is dead, specifically based off of this coming from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Banks can now do quite a few things that they could not do for many, many years. Specifically, they can provide crypto asset custody services, which is something I never thought I'd see. I mean, we our free call on Friday is called Beat the Banks. We're still going to talk about that, but that's wild. The other part is banks may hold dollar deposits serving as reserves backing stable coins, and they can facilitate stablecoin payments through their actual EDI rails. And the most interesting one, act as independent nodes on a verification network, meaning a distributed ledger, meaning they could be AVAX validators, they could be Ethereum validators, they could be Berachain validators if they want to. This is a very interesting move, and I will credit President Trump's team on this, because to be frank, he's really not the most educated on this, but his teams are. And if this is not Mark Andreessen's fingerprints over all of this, I don't know what is. So I know he's been doing a lot of legwork behind the scenes, trying to get the right hires in place, getting the right policy out together. I'm not put all of the credit on him. There's multiple people in his team that have pushed for this, but this is a very, very big 180 from where we were at 2 years ago, when we were looking at a severe crypto winter debanking going crazy, and banks literally not just suspending your account if they notice that you're doing anything crypto related. So this is a huge 180 from there. So I don't know, Kareem, are you bullish on DeFi after seeing something like this? Because that last part that's highlighted, that's very DeFi focused.
I can't see what the last part is by glasses,
but that's okay. I can, if you want me to read it for you, I can. Otherwise, it's just saying they can do stablecoin payments as well as be nodes on an independent decentralized ledger, which is
I'm interested to see how the banks dispel the messaging down to their customers and get them to adopt this. That's kind of like, so I feel like I'm neutral, but I'm like more so like excited and curious about like what it looks like for them to put this into action. Like, what does it look like for them to get their customers interested in this? And what is that process like? What is the marketing around it? What is the messaging? Like, I really, really can't wait to see what comes from that. But overall, I think this coming from banks is better because it's helping to normalize what we all think or what we all enjoy as DeFi is normal. But at the same time, it's just very interesting because it's like supposed to be your own bank. And
exactly,
depending back on the people who got us here in the first place, is this not antithetical to really what crypto is about?
Exactly.
And so
exactly, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's like, oh, great. Like, institutions are recognizing this and it makes it better for other people who trust those institutions still to adopt it. But at the same time, it's like, these are the same ones that dunked on us. Like,
I know.
And they will do it again, without a doubt. Like, they have no loyalty to their customers in that aspect at all. And so it could and will maybe happen again. So that's like, okay, so that's why I'm like, what is your messaging going to be around this? Like, what are you going to be talking about the stablecoin, and why would I use this over this? Like, right now, I can get yield on Coinbase 10 times more than I can at my regular bank. So
exactly,
how are you going to compete with that?
There we go.
That is more so like how I think about it. So I feel like more like neutral and very curious about how this all plays out.
And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on this show. Thank you so much, Karima, for that. That is fantastic. Yeah. Austin, I want to ask you, if you're thinking about getting a US checking account that, was able to, work with crypto or allow you to get into DeFi, would you trust JP Morgan, who has been poo-pooing crypto for years? Or would you possibly be more trustworthy of an entity like Coinbase?
So I guess if you're asking me, myself, someone who's been in the space for, 5+ years, there's no reason for me to change back to a bank who I know.
There you go.
There's no reason. But the one plus side to this is I saw it, wholeheartedly for about 2 years, working with a lot of these, registered, audited, fully legitimate, family offices, hedge funds, whatever it may be, really good people, above the line, they're staying in between the lines. Everything's legal. And, one day they come to us and ask who our banking partners are because their business has been like nearly shut down for nothing. Right. Like they're working with real people's money, real people's wealth. Like I saw it like not ruin the lives, but make people's lives a lot harder than they had to be for the full reason that they just didn't know what this was yet. And they thought it was a scam. And what I really think this banking thing is you see, to go back to your question, I can go get 5% stablecoin yield on Coinbase, Uphold, Robinhood, DeFi. There's a lot of different places opposed to my, I have a pretty small local bank, but, it's 0.1%. And, for them,
mine.
Yeah, right. And I don't know, I'm very split as well. Is like, I even had, I'm going to tell a story and I thought this was very unprofessional of my bank. I don't even know if it's legal to ask this question because I've always been very, legit, pay all my taxes, never have overdrafts or whatnot in my bank. And they asked me, I was actually just calling to ensure that my debit card worked out of the country. And they asked why I keep sending money to Coinbase on a monthly basis as soon as my paycheck hits. One, I don't know if they can even legally ask that. But, I was in a good mood and I said, well, because I get 5.2% on USDC or whatever it was at the time. And I really think this act even though you can see some, like I said, I'm an optimist, you can see the good in it. I think banks are fearing what's occurring in DeFi. And they know if we keep going against these guys and realizing that they're creating technologies and workflows that enable people to do the same thing, but with more trust being trustless, we're gone, right? Like there's no longer going to be a reserve, and they already practice fractional reserves. So I truly think it's a innovate or die, really way that they're looking at this. So
you're gonna be my segue guy for sure, because I mean, just looking at that, what we're looking at now, you just mentioned that. I'm like, it's Moonwell is long-standing lending AMM on Base. They're now offering virtual accounts. The important part here is where it's powered by. So because it's on Base, Coinbase, of course, will offer this to their customers, but it's powered by Bridge. Bridge, we talked about this probably about a month ago here on the show. It's a stablecoin issuer that was acquired by Stripe when Stripe decided to bring their money into this space. So now Stripe is now very much intertwined at the very deepest parts here, and being able to offer virtual US checking accounts to anyone in the world now, using money based off on Base, a layer 2 in the Ethereum blockchain ecosystem. This is wild. Now they announced this a month ago, but it's really starting to take hold now. Especially, like, for example, the ability to actually have a checking account where you can actually now there are cards you can get to spend money now. MetaMask has one, Cypher has one, Coinbase has one. I use it all the time. It's actually really helpful to just be able just to go to Coinbase and just convert to USDC, and then you can use this debit card wherever you like. But to actually have everything blockchain based and on chain, I mean, this is a shot across the bow to all banks. So it doesn't shock me that what we just talked about is happening in response to stuff like this. Because one thing we also talked about is that Base is just waiting to onboard almost 15,000 family offices onto Base. Once they do that and bring in more people, Base is the number one chain in all of DeFi, easily, just based on TVL alone, from all of the money that's going to be coming on chain. So they're building this infrastructure. Also bringing Coinbase on chain as a DEX in Q3. It's all happening. It's all bullish. And right now, even though we're in March and the market looks like absolute doo-doo, we're still at the floor. We're early. You have a chance to get in early. And, get educated, guys. That's why we're here. Get educated. Find the opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities to bring yourself on chain. Leave the shackles of the old world that is rigged against you anyway, and move on to some new things that are happening that hopefully, and again, I use the word hopefully because you should never go head first into stuff like this. You should compartmentalize your risk, right? Diversify your capital sources to make sure that you can test all this out, because this is very much still a testing phase, an experimental phase. But this is the future of finance, guys. We've believed this since 2019, since 2021, since I came in this space, in 2023 when we created Beacon. So,
and if you don't mind, I have to say one statistic to really just back the idea of we are early still.
Yep.
To compare, I don't like comparing really the crypto industry or any specific asset to one of the largest equity assets in the world, but just to give you the perception of how early we are. NVIDIA today is valued at $2.84 trillion, right? Just NVIDIA. The entire crypto market, and this includes over, I don't know how many, there's 12.54 million crypto assets that are being tracked on coinmarketcap.com.
Right.
All of those combined is 2.68 trillion.
Correct.
You take every cent in the crypto industry, from meme coins to Bitcoin, everything, that equals 2.68 trillion, and NVIDIA still has a larger market cap than the entire crypto space. So when you see these volatile prices, you need to realize $2.68 trillion is a lot of money, but compared to how much money and liquidity is in other financial markets, it's nothing. So that's one stat that will hopefully, ease the pain of this, pretty turbulent market, especially in the past few months. We are early.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I definitely wanted to toss this one your way, Karima, because and unfortunately Rachel couldn't join us today, but interesting survey that came out. 50% of female investors seek long-term wealth creation. Interesting headline here. But according to this, 50% of female crypto investors prioritize long-term financial growth, with up to 49% holding digital assets for up to 5 years, and 39% plan to hold more than 5 years. Women also prefer, according to the study, of course, women also tend to prefer safer digital assets like BTC.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see.
So interesting.
They tend to build more diverse portfolios rather than chasing short-term gains. I don't know if this is necessarily true, but I wanted to ask you specifically, based off of your interactions and your grouping with multiple other groups that are female focused in this space.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about this study? Is this accurate of all of the women that you know in this space, that they're fairly risk off and they're really just trying to build long-term wealth, or are they out there trying to hustle and build what's up next?
I think it's fairly accurate for the women that I do know. They're investing or they're building value in real time, like whatever project that they're on. And I think that like the meme markets and the trenches are really for men. I mean, anybody can do it. Like, power to the people, right? Power to every woman who wants to. But the nature of the aggression, of the gambling, of the vulgarness is just not for women, really. Even a lie protocol is big boobies. Like, what the fuck? Like, like some of the things are just overly sexualized and like just clearly not made for women. Or made to attract or care about that demographic as a customer, or so the things that do care about that demographic are kind of like brandless, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Base, and those are easier to for women to attract themselves to, or to latch on to, because it's like not as repulsive as a lot of other experiences in crypto. And so I think that's a part of it. I think that because women are normally the caregivers of the homes, they don't have time to be in the trenches. Like, you can't take care of kids and do this and like what happens is a lot of us round trip. when we do that dumb shit, we round trip tokens, all that. But it's in the group chat. We'll talk about it, and we like. And I'm on multiple women chats, and like round tripping is a thing. So like
it is. We
do make dumb decisions, and we do like end up doing. But I think we learn those lessons easier than men, and become like a little bit more risk adverse when it comes to investing. So I do think that this makes sense to me, that they're seeking long-term wealth creation over like the gambling right now that is like really like leading the market. And yeah, I don't know. I really feel I'm going to read it more into it, because it's pretty interesting to me to see what like other women and what the studies are saying. But it just makes perfect sense just because of the roles. And even like the women that are really, I've noticed over time, like the women that are in leading roles have paid caregivers in their homes to even participate. So like
really?
At least 2 or 3 like CMO women that I follow will be like, we have an au pair, we have a maid at all times, we have like a cook in the home, like they have certain services. And so if you don't really have that kind of access to those kind of services, you don't really have the time allotted to participate in the markets the way that men do. And so that's a whole nother aspect that's added to it that I think about a lot. And I love that they shared those things, because as someone who does not have an au pair, like as a main caregiver, dad's great, but still like remembering all the appointments, all that stuff, the financial, like not burden. There's a I forgot what it's called, but it's like an emotional workload that you take on as a woman in the household that most women are taking on. And so you add that on, you get tripped up, you get trenches, you got stress. It just becomes like so much. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that a longer term thing where they can just set it and forget it is better for women versus the short term games. Being in the trenches, you're PvPing against like 18-year-old boys with no time. Like it's like kids in the market. Like when I was really heavy in and I was trying to get into the trenches a little bit in the beginning of the year, I got rugged once and I was good. Like, I'm over this shit. And it took me like one rug to be like, and then to see how rugs work is so behavioral. It's so behavioral. Like, even like they rug you and then they CTO, but the CTO is the ruggers trying to get all the rest of the liquidity out of it. But if you don't know, then you're like, yes, it's insane how much behavioral it is that you're trading against someone else. And so I think that the emotions and things like that is just not favorable to be into it for the short term gains and wins. Now, there are some women who are in the trenches for sure and that are getting it. But that's not the majority. That's just not it. And we see that in the chats. We see that online. We kind of see that through the the banter and like the rhetoric that is online on CT at least.
Right. I will say this, and Austin, I apologize. I'm not really gonna have you comment on this because you are not a woman.
That's all.
And I'm not commenting on it either because I'm
Kareem is doing a great job. Yeah,
she's doing a fantastic job. Is she not?
And what I will say is, I have is we need more women in this industry.
That is my guy right there. That is exactly. Did I not tell you this, Karima? I am a champion for women in this space. We need more women in this space. So thank you so much for being here today. The subhead here is 81% of women still report a lack of education as a barrier to adoption. So
I find that interesting.
I will tell you, some of the best members in our mastermind, in our communities, they are women. Some of the most successful members in our group are women, and they take education, on our team very seriously. And that's the key. Understanding and being able to balance all that, as you mentioned, is a huge thing.
More women voting for women is going to be helpful. Like more women, because that's really what it is. It's like you can't expect someone else outside of your group to advocate for you or know how to. Unfortunately, you can expect them to be allies and to show them how to help. But honestly, more women voting for women is going to be the thing that attracts more women, in my opinion, to the space, because some men and some brains can just be so tone deaf. I've experienced some things where I was like, it's insane that I didn't have to say anything. Like, it's insane that this is mentioned. And so I think that like Chipped is a good example of women voting for women. The Chipped Nails had a line down the block at New York Fashion Week. Like, they're growing. They have partnerships with Paris Hilton. The nail has a chip in it, and it's not on chain yet, but it's a whole movement.
It's an NFT thing. Yeah.
It's a whole
I had
movement.
someone do that. Someone did that at an event for me. They're like, I was like, "Can I get your Telegram?" She's like, "Yeah, hold on." And she's like, "Hold your phone out." And she like was putting her thumb up to my phone. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I got chipped." I'm like, "What does that mean?" I was like really confused. I was like, "What do you mean you got chipped?" She's like, "It's in my nail." I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool."
It'll be smaller stuff like that. I think more. There's someone also, she's like building an app called Ava, and it's basically to help reduce the burden of managing a household. Basically like a household assistant, which is kind of something I would love to have, or other people who don't have the access to.
I would love to have that too.
Yeah, and so she's like there. I think it's more coming, and it's exciting to see that there are studies about it. It's just like a growth period. Like, naturally, tech and all this is heavy with men. Like, that's just naturally how it is, right? And so it's nothing to be mad about. It's like, all right, it's time to grow. It's time to invest in and look into it. And then if you are a man, like, how do you become an ally? Like, what does it look like for you to join in on this? If you say we need more women, like, are you signing up for manuals where there's all men that look just like you on the panel? Like, if you're doing that, you're not really helping. Or if you're not making a statement about it, like, this would be better if we had some other voices present, right? Those are the things that kind of help push things forward. But then also, like how I said, I'm a big proponent of like self-responsibility. So it's like, all right, if I want more women, I'm gonna bring more women. I'm gonna support women business. I have so many chip nails. I could like, I'm gonna support it. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna promote it. And then I think that as the market shifts and we get more access to better user experiences, that we'll definitely have more people and more women coming into the space for sure.
Love it. Before we move on to the projects, and thank you so much for that, I did want to talk about one project that our community has followed for a very long time. It is our, at least in the Beacon ecosystem. When you sign up with us, when you just check out our content, the first farm you go to is at GMX on Arbitrum, mainly because it's an easy thing to understand with regards to what an ETF or a multi-asset basket fund is and earn yield off of that. GMX has now expanded to Solana. This is live as of this morning. I've been following this for months. I've been in their Telegram. This will be interesting because ultimately GMX is they were the first to bring the perp DEX to market, starting on Avalanche and then to Arbitrum, and then becoming a darling of DeFi, if you want to call it that, as they ushered in the real yield era of DeFi more than 2.5 years ago. Well, a team has gone out and expanded GMX to Solana. As you can see, the rates on these are very low, and that's to be expected because ultimately the liquidity that you provide here is based off of the trading services because you're providing a liquidity backstop for them. You essentially become the house if you know your casino terms because everyone has to use the trading services, and basically as they're using them, opening accounts, getting liquidated, opening margin, leverage, all those fees come back to LP and GM stakers that are here. So this will be a very interesting experiment for them, mainly because when they first came out, they were the one and only. They were the first ones there. Obviously now we have Hyperliquid, we have things like JLP, Drift, Buffer, multiple other DYDX. I'm just going to name a couple more that are out there that are huge perp dexes in the space, Deribit, things like that. Now we have this on Solana, and it's a fairly crowded group on Solana. You have Zeta Markets, you have Drift, you have not Camino, JLP with Jupiter, MarginFi. There are multiple perp dexes out there, so they're coming into a fairly crowded space. It's all about, can they get people to use the product? This will be a very interesting experiment to see. So yes, excited to see that GMX is finally on Solana. I don't know if it's the best yielding position right now because frankly, they just don't have a ton of volume yet. But once they do, with perp dexes, it's a great way to escape the PvP environment with perp dexes, something we talk about in our groups all the time, because you're going from PvE to PvE and you're profiting off of other investor behaviors, which is where we really focus a lot of our yield generation on these days here at Beacon.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and segue into that last part there. And again, the one thing I want to state here is, guys, what I don't want, obviously there's a huge AI narrative going on, multiple narratives going on. The US government should not be the driving force of DeFi adoption. Yes, it's great that President Trump has come in and decided to create this whole brand for himself, and his wife's coin cut him off at the knees and caused this gigantic distress. We'll call it that. It has caused the waters to recede back to where they were, and now builders can start building again because all of this hype is gone. I want to focus more on the builders because, like Karima said, they are what's going to push this space forward. I believe, Austin, you said that as well. So ultimately, I'll start with you. We'll start with you, Austin. What is a project that you are really looking forward to that you think is going to be, driving some interesting adoption moving forward?
Yeah, truth be told, I mean, Kenneth has probably touched on it, and maybe I'm biased, but my job for 2 to 3 years was really discover any innovative tech, whether it was an asset or some sort of new use case outside of Bitcoin and ETH. Unfortunately, I went a little too far down the Potenza rabbit hole, and really, it's hard for me not to put any mind share outside of really what we're building on Subnet 8 at Taushi, but Potenza in general, because I like to use an analogy for Betensor to kind of describe it for people who don't know what it is. I think a lot of people miscategorize it as an AI chain, and that's maybe why it caught a really big price gouge earlier in the year when it was trading up at $700. Here's the analogy I use, and this is a really good way to think of how like decentralization can really create a lot of innovation. So I think of Betensor as a digital New York City, right? It's this network, it's an incentive chain. So there's, in today's state, I believe 74 different subnets. Taoshi is the owner of Subnet 8, the proprietary trading network. But to go back to the analogy, each one of these subnets is like a skyscraper or a startup company in New York City, right? The workers of each skyscraper or company are the miners on the network, right? Each startup doesn't have, and this is why I really like Betensor, opposed to other cryptos where you kind of have to put it in one sector, each subnet has a different task at hand. Like we have, it's a decentralized prop firm trading network, now kind of an open source hedge fund. So we task our miners to provide sustainable, high performance trading strategies across multiple financial networks. But subnet 27 is a compute subnet, and subnet 1 or 9 looks at protein folding and decentralized science. So you look at all these different subnets, they're all doing something different, and they all have the ability to make their own incentive mechanism to power their community of miners, their network of miners, to try to contribute and be the best, result giver. So, I mean, when you take that concept and you really decentralize the ability to, innovate and create value, whether it's ours as trading strategies or something else, I just see that the ball is rolling here and more subnets are live and we're getting, more interactions in the community, and miners, or the quality of miners which each subnet look like they're going up over time. I just think Betensor in general, it's going to be very difficult for like a closed source, just a traditional company to keep up with some of these innovations, because you're taking this decentralized route and really allowing accessibility for anyone to join a network and contribute. And I think this is something we haven't really seen in like the traditional economy, right? Like there's a lot of closed doors and silos, and a lot of people can't get in. So it may be biased, but Betensor in general, I just think is something that people should keep their eyes on, especially post DTAO. Now, instead of validators, to go back to the analogy, there's New York, different startups, you have your employees. Before DTAO, your validators were the ones to determine who gets emissions. That would be similar to like your mayor or the governor of the city deciding, okay, these 3 startups are doing well, they deserve the money. Post DTAO world, now instead of the governor or the mayor deciding who gets the money, i.e. TAO, right? Emissions are paid in TAO. The taxpayers, right? The community, people can actually, it's this kind of open free market dynamic where your taxpayers, to stick with the analogy, decide, I like what this subnet and this subnet are doing, so I'm going to buy these subnet alpha tokens, and that will equate to they get more emissions to fund their startup, their company, to continue to build, because we see value there. So I think that concept in general of, decentralizing and letting the taxpayers of the community decide who is building value and who deserves those emissions, I just think this is going to, really enhance this competitive edge for these subnets, these builders, to just continue to progress and continue to build interesting, innovative things. So it's really difficult for me to, I'm heads down on Subnet 8 and what we're building with Taoshi and Glitch Financial. But I think for Betensor to succeed, we're going to need, strong competition. And we actually, hope for more subnets to come in and build cool things, because the end game is Betensor, will capture value from that alone. So
do you have any alpha when you guys are launching?
Yeah, so Glitch Financial, that is and not to shill something that we're doing, but Arash, our CEO and founder of Taoshi, will be hosting a community call, I believe, at 5:30 Eastern today. And he'll be over really the overall picture with what we're building with Taoshi, PTN, our subnet alpha token data, and how Glitch Financial really plays a role in all this. So I'll let him get into it, but the quick too long didn't read is we're beta testing right now. We've completed kind of alpha testing. We have a few partners. Timeless is one of them. They have a few, I think we have like 5 to 6 external accounts who are actually beta testing with live funds, with various Forex and crypto related strategies. And everything's going well. We're all about, we're looking to scale Glitch Financial. So we're in no rush. Obviously, with emissions high, we have to, over exceed and deliver real products. And Glitch Financial is in a great place. A lot of UI updates happening on a daily basis.
This looks better, much better than where it was when we looked at it a couple months ago.
Yeah. That's the website will continue to be refined, and the UI. I can't spill too much beans, but it looks great. Systems are firing away. So I know at the moment we're slow rolling and getting more kind of close external people on the beta wait list. And for anyone who's listening who is on that wait list of, I think, over 1,200 people in the community who are waiting to join, Chris being one of them, we're going to keep slow rolling that. And hopefully by April, we'll have that kind of first tranche of, non-friendlies in a way, be able to actually get some funds in there and trading. So it's
awesome.
Coming. We're building.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Karima, what about you? What's that one project that that's got you really, really hopeful for what people are building?
I would say there's so many. I really love Crypto the Game right now. I think it's so cute.
Ooh, Crypto the Game. Can we talk about Crypto the Game?
I got eliminated because I was offline Monday.
Oh no!
I didn't know that. I forgot, honestly. I definitely was not chronically online. I didn't tweet at all. I was not online Monday, and you were supposed to tweet that you were playing a game. So I automatically got that. But then the puzzle to solve to get immunity was like intense. It was very intense. And I was like, this is never for me anyway. Not in a bad way, but like the investment of brain power. The people keep saying that. So I'm kind of bullish on like things that drive community. And things that drive people together. I mean, that's kind of like seasonal. It happens once a year. I think it's a good boilerplate for how people can build community and build anticipation around something. I'm actually very interested in this tool called Replicats. So I'm so down with the agents, and there's like an overflow of DeFi AI agents. And I am particularly interested in DeFi AI agents built for the normies, and not like not the ones that are promising, I'll make you $1 million in your sleep. More so ones that are like, I'll help you not round trip this token. I will help you, like, I'll give you a report on what's happening in your wallet. I will, like very simple things that help you get more engaged with the market. I'm very bullish. And I know when I spoke to the Replicats team at ETHDenver, that's what they were kind of building towards, not just like, because I feel like sometimes in DeFi, like people are in their own world so much, they forget that like like not everybody wants to be or is trying to be a super duper trader. Like, no, I mean, like most people just want to make money. And so I think that simple fundamentals help you make better money. Like if your agent reminds you like, hey, you're worried about your wallet right now, sell. That's simple. That's not like a crazy strategy. That's not anything that's hard to implement. Honestly, it's really not. And from what, I think that kind of approach to a DeFi agent is going to be a winning approach. There's going to be some people who are able to capture institutional interest for sure, for managing portfolios and all that stuff. And then there's going to be someone who is able to blow up with UGC content on TikTok and on other platforms that feels safe and trustworthy. And there's already AI companions that are a huge market for them. And it's continuously growing, like exponentially growing as far as the amount of AI companions are concerned. And so I think one that will help you just comfort you in the experience that is scary of getting into this and like buying and selling. And that's going to be a big deal. And it's not going to be that hard to build. It's really going to be like, who's going to get the adoption first? And there are many different of these organizations and companies that are running, like fighting against each other, making these trading agents. But the ones who try to get people first, I think will be the most successful. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at and what I'm looking forward to as far as specifically like in crypto being built and implemented and all that good stuff or adopted.
Love it. Yeah, Crypto the Game, Replicats. Very cool. I always talk about mine all the time, so I'm not going to talk about them today. But
Yeah. I was like, I'm
because
really not sure.
we're quite a bit over time. But I just wanted to thank you both for being here. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up here. Go ahead and Austin, plug whatever you like to plug, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, if you are interested in what we're building at Taoshi or Glitch Financial, you can follow us on socials. Follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or follow our Discord. Like I said, I think today's call will go over honestly any question someone could have. And Arash really just wants to paint the bigger picture of what we're building with Taoshi. And it's really great. And that's why I really jumped board is that, I saw the mission of some very intelligent, already wealthy people who could be done working, the ability they've created these really sustainable, high performing strategies. And, their biggest thing is one, the creation of that and how to actually build these in a decentralized manner. But then two is accessibility. We always see in the trading world, if you ever get these powerful strategies, they're typically siloed for your Citadels of the world and your accredited investors only. So the biggest part for us is like finding ways that we can try to, provide wealth generating opportunities, and we're all about sustainability, not your meme coin trenches. We're going to we're going to 100x. We're all about, minimal drawdowns and really high performance here. So love what we're doing here at Taoshi, and, follow us on any socials to stay updated. And if you ever have any questions about what we're building, DMs are always open. And hopefully, Chris, like I said, I've been watching the show for the last 2 months or so. And today kind of just took place because of his whatever's going on with his Wi-Fi. But, happy to join in the future to keep everyone updated and talk markets. Always happy to join.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being here. Had a great time. We've actually had Arash on the show before, so really cool guy. Give my best to him, and excited to hear about the news later on today. Karima, so good to finally have you on the show. It was a blessing to meet you in person. I remember seeing you the moment I walked in. You were interviewing somebody. I was like, "Who's that?" Because you had a Bear Baddies patch on your. Actually, you had a Shifi. You had something with Shifi or something like that. I was like, yeah, the Shifi hat, and I was like, I'm a big supporter of them. So. Of their cause. So definitely plug what you would like, please.
Absolutely. First, Austin, I love how passionate you are. I love it so much. Makes me happy. And I'd say I plug two things really quickly is one, Swan, I'm working on an AI agent protocol. Basically, it's a way to bring community lore to life or to have fun with the community. So the agent lives on the platform. It's not a yapper with a token. It lives on the platform. You give it a budget, you give it a story, and the community contributes to the story, and they get rewarded along the way. So long story short, say I had a Santa Claus agent and I gave it a budget and I sold it a sleigh and someone else sold it reindeer and so on and so forth. And that agent kind of decides which artifact is the best one and it buys it for that. So it's kind of a human to agent marketplace. We're trying something different and new with it. And we're really focused on bringing communities on and having communities explore and play around with their lore through this kind of protocol. And so I'd say that's like my first one. And then my second one is what you listed was Mr. Love. Mr. Love is going to die soon, which I guess is the first time I'm saying here, which is a good thing. So I launched Mr. Love on stream. One random Saturday night, I was streaming and I built Mr. Love on stream, launched it on virtuals. It almost bonded while I was on stream and hit like 5,000 viewers. It was insane experience, but
5,000, my goodness.
I know, just a Saturday night, like just somebody shared it in some group and other people shared it. And then it turned into a whole thing. Now this was all degenerate gamblers. Let me be honest with you. And so, what I started to do was build an actual companion type app. So Mr. Love will be a dating coach. And instead I built something like a Claude life coach advisor, which I'm like making a lot of progress towards. I had to venture outside of crypto to get the real infrastructure I needed to make a very agent with real utility. No offense to crypto, but it's still a lot of work that has to be done to some of the platforms. And so I'm very excited to give Mr. Love a funeral and bring to life what I'm coming up with next. And so just on my profile, I'll be sharing about it. But I'm super, super excited because, I mean, my use case isn't really in crypto. It's on Instagram. It's life coaches. It's already there. It's already people crying like, ChatGPT told me this about myself. Like literally, there's a whole market for it. And so I'm not mocking it for my target audience, but that's what's happening.
Oh my gosh, my mind is blowing.
They're getting their needs met through AI. They're getting their human needs met through AI. Some things are not as accessible. Therapy isn't as accessible. Feeling like a burden to your friends is a thing that people feel like when they're going through things. And so I'm building a container for that. And so I'm very passionate and excited to like see it come to life. And I'm using a platform. I'm using Lovable and another platform on the back end called N8N to build the workflows out for this agent. And it's been a very, very, very big learning experience with learning about memory, learning about RAG, learning about the database and different things that needs to function. And so, yeah, it's probably my life's work, honestly, truly. It's a very, very exciting to know that like, okay, we're meeting somewhere. We built the very basic workflow. It's done. And now I can start working on the front end and vibe code my heart away.
The number of thoughts that just ran through my head about people trauma dumping to AI agents is just wild. I mean, it's that I hadn't even thought about it that way, but that makes a ton of sense because, a lot of people are using Claude, Venice, ChatGPT for just ultimately doing this type of stuff. Just help me with this. And I didn't think that it would go that far, but clearly there's a huge market. There's a huge market for this. So yeah, I mean, congrats on all the success. Congrats on the hustle. I watched this girl hustle around ETHDenver. She's doing it, guys. So please support Karima. Please support Austin as well, of course, at Taushi. Love the passion. Would love to have you both back on. We do this call every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, here on simulcasted on our Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and I guess also on stream.tv. I got to make sure that even worked. But we've been doing this call in some form since December 2021. The goal is, of course, to educate as many people on the news that's out there on how you can make it work for you as an everyday investor, because that's really the whole point. We're all here to make money. But we're also here to see the future of what's rolling out in front of us. Again, join our free group, absolutely free, school.com/Beacon from Beacon DeFi. Learn from the best in the business. Join this exciting community. I'll be talking about this on the Friday call. I posted this, on Monday about don't panic, just keep farming. People are worried about their bags and holding spot. Just keep farming, keep getting that passive income, and make everything work for you. With that said, we'll see you on Friday for our Beat the Banks call. If you are in our mastermind, we have multiple calls coming up in the next couple of hours and days, so we will see you then. With that said, here, don't go away, guys. But we'll do our outro. Beacons up, banks down. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good talking.